Hey there, it is still August 19th, 2015, Comic Book Day, still Wednesday, 4 books left to go. Let's just do this then, starting with Silk, issue number 5, issue number 6, god damn it, so close. And wrapping up this arc in kind of a really big, punchy, flashy way, or more so than Silk definitely has been um, so far. Very direct and to the point. We also get the old artist back. As I've said before, I really love the more cartoony art in this book, so I'm glad to have what is their name? I should know their name. Stacey Lee back on the book. Um, so last issue, we had Cindy Moon captured and put on a dissecting table by this guy who supposedly knows where her family is. And in this issue, she escapes, punches him a few times, and then Black Cat comes in and messes up the guy real good. And then Black Cat and Silk fight. And yeah, and it's big and fun and colorful action. There's a dramatic haircut that happens, so like that's something. Haircut story is kind of dramatic, I guess. Where's the big splash? There it is. There's the big flashy splash page when Silk finally lands a couple good hits in on Black Cat, which he's basically been trying to do since the series started. So finally getting her kicks in. Black Cat ends up escaping, and then Spider-Man comes in to console Cindy after losing the only opportunity she's had so far to actually find her parents. And then the world ends, because Secret Wars is a thing that's happening, and Silk hasn't been affected by that yet. But now it is, so at her lowest point, end of the world. That's basically it. Short book, but really satisfying. Just the art. I just love how cartoony this book gets with the art. How and how everyone just seems so fluid. Because probably because of the more cartoony style, everything looks so fluid and everything pops out so much. It's just it's a fun book, and Cindy finally gets her knocks in against Black Cat, which has been a long time coming. So yeah, if you haven't been reading, this is not probably not the best issue to start on. I'd wait for October or November when they reboot, when Marvel reboots everything again. But if you have been reading, very satisfying little conclusion of this story, and we'll probably get another two-parter in before the reboot. So, at least one more issue, because they say that in the back. So, yeah, see what Cindy Moon does at the end of the world. And yeah, I like the book. Art's a big part of it. Next up is Spider-Verse, issue number 3, 4. God damn it, I'm bad at this. I have no excuse to be so bad. I've read these books. And the main thing that I like about this book, through this entire book, is Peter Parker's facial expressions. Peter Parker's in this book, does not have any spider powers, has to be rescued by Gwen when Venom attacks. I just love, you have Peter Parker's face here as Gwen's pulling him out of the way. You have where's another good Peter face? Don't worry, I know it. Peter's face over here when Venom tackles him. Yeah, it looks almost like Venture Brothers. I'm getting a very kind of a Dean Venture kind of feel from Peter Parker here. Meanwhile, as Gwen and Venom are fighting, the rest of the spiders, particularly Spider-Ham and Spider-Woman, or Ultimate Spider-Woman, I always forget which spider this one is, actually. Do they say her name at all? Does anyone say her name at all? Come on, somebody. No. No, we don't say her name at all in this book. I can't remember these things. It's been a month. It's been a whole month. But Spider-Ham and her catch up. We find out more about Norman Osborn's endgame, with this entire thing. Gwen Stacy lays a power cord on Venom in order to beat him, and yeah, Peter Parker sends Norman Osborn a Snapchat. So that's where we're at in this book right now. We find out Norman's plan with the, like what he's trying to do with all the spiders and everything. Twist, spoiler alert, I guess Norman Osborn is evil. Probably shouldn't be that much of a spoiler. Fight scenes aren't as well put together as they were in the last issue. In the last issue, I remember really enjoying the fight scene they had at the beginning. The fight against Venom has its moments, mainly the power cord over here and Peter's faces. Again, it's not bad. Everything's very clear, and Venom does look really good in this book. Because he looks appropriately gooey, but also big and threatening. He looks gooey and heavy, which I like. Really liking the story so far. Don't know if I'll continue it in October. I think I'm just going to read this one arc on Battleworld. But if they keep the creative team, it should still be good. And this issue is just good on its own. Well, not on its own, but as the Spider-Verse story, if you've been following it, I'd continue to follow it. Still pretty good stuff. And next up is... what do we got? Next up. Okay, yeah. Next up, we have Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issue number 4. And this book is busy. Not as busy as Justice League was, but still pretty busy. Last issue, Peter Parker was engaged in a fight with the Sinister Six at Annie's school. Regent had found out that Annie has superpowers, also has tracked Peter Parker. In this issue, we find Mary Jane and Annie whisked away to S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is the underground resistance, trying to fight back against Regent, led by Hawkeye, that also has some other characters, Mockingbird, and yeah, just other characters. Jarvis is with them in S.H.I.E.L.D. base, which is pretty neat. Meanwhile, Peter and Sandman, who is also working for S.H.I.E.L.D., run afoul of Regent, who kidnaps them and captures them and takes them back to his base. The main badass of this book is Annie Parker, as Peter and Sandman are having their powers essentially drained by Regent. He orders the Sinister Six in order to take out S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, and then Annie, just the little badass she is, starts wrecking the Sinister Six, just one by one, taking them down with her powers. And they do not stand a chance against little Annie Parker. And then, at the very end, we have the Resistance storming Regent's castle, leading into what I think is the final issue of Renew Your Vows, the next one. Might be 2 more issues, but I'm pretty sure it's only 1 more. Because this ends with Annie jumping into a portal in order to save her dad. Actually, does it say if the next issue is the last issue? It does not, but looks like a last issue cover to me. This isn't as deep as the previous Renew Your Vows books have been. This is kind of a tonal resting point. The other ones had, like, you really felt like these characters were in danger. We were following Peter a lot, and the whole story up until now was Peter has to protect Annie. And so whenever Annie was in trouble, you as a reader, or at least me as a reader, I felt like, oh my god, save Annie, you know, Peter, be a good dad, save people, be Spider-Man, you know, protect your loved ones. And in this book, we finally get Annie coming into her own, taking out the Sinister Six on her own, and it's just a complete kind of tonal, like, you can calm down, Annie's totally capable, she's a badass, and she's going to rescue you now. Which is a very pleasant way to shift things. So yeah, really, really enjoyed this book too. Dan Slott, he knows how to write Spider-Man. He knows how to write Spider-Man stories, even when you have Spider-Man being locked up and you have to have his daughter save him, which is really cool. I really hope, actually, like, I'd like to see an anime just book. I'd like to see her in her own book. Not gonna happen, probably. Probably not gonna happen, unfortunately, but she's a really good character, and if you read this book, this issue really explains why she's so likable, and why you really want to see her kick ass. They really flesh her out in this one issue, and by the end you're like, yeah, let her kick ass, let her fight the Sinister Six, let her rescue her dad. So really effective stuff there with making us like a kid. Kids are kind of unlikable. I don't like most kids. I like anime. She's fictional, so it's easier. And the last book this week I picked up. New book, not DC, not Marvel, but very interesting story. It is Welcome Back, issue number 1. So, this is a completely new book, so just a short introduction. We are following Molly Quinn. Molly Quinn is a 26-year-old with a terrible life. She's working a temp job. She has no car. And she's running away from her past, which involves her father being a serial killer. And now she's trying to basically get rid of all of that, start life anew. She has a dog who loves her. That's helpful. She has a roommate who she can get drunk with and read terrible mail she gets from Fedora fanboys who want to rescue her for whatever reason because they're idiots. But yeah, she has a boyfriend who she breaks up with in this issue. Yeah, so things aren't really going well for her. And also she happens to be a reincarnation of this thing. We're not sure if it's an alien or some sort of Highlander. Like, this book really does remind me a lot of Highlander, the Sean Connery. It's not a Sean Connery movie. It's a movie Sean Connery is in. But Highlander, in that she is part of a constantly reincarnating race of warriors. And she just finds that out. She is being hunted by more of her race. There's a war going on between these two separate sides of constantly reincarnating warriors. She just is essentially drafted, finds out she's been reincarnated, and everything just starts coming to her. And she has to fight. And the person she's being set up to fight is very, very kind of more equipped to deal with that sort of thing than she is. We're introduced to other, they're called sequels, more of these reincarnating warriors. This one single-handedly breaks into a guarded villa in order to interrogate a third of these sequels. Again, this is only issue 1. It's a 4-issue miniseries, but there's still lots of questions to answer in this book, but they really do set up the point really well. Just the general conceit comes across. Reincarnating warriors forced to fight each other forever. This one just found out. And it's really good. The art I really like. It's kind of a cross between I don't know. I had something. I didn't write it down, but I had two artists in my head who this is like a cross between. It kind of reminds me of Silk, like just looking at it now. The faces are more cartoony. I guess there's kind of a Brian Lee O'Malley and around the eyes a little bit, around her faces. I don't know. So yeah, it's like kind of Silk meets Brian Lee O'Malley meets someone darker. I don't know exactly who. But yeah, really enjoying the art. Dialogue comes across really nicely. You really get into Molly's head. Especially she goes to a party, and we find out how she behaves differently at parties than she does when she's on her own, and she's an extrovert. She has ways of kind of attaching, what does she say here? I can talk to anyone about anything. I see the parts I can grab onto in a sea of social awkwardness. And just seeing how this character reacts in these widely different situations. And then what happens when she finds out, oh, I'm a reincarnating badass warrior person. and things like all of the things in her life that didn't make sense suddenly start making sense to her, and how her life is really transforming because of this. Really, really good first issue. If you've liked the movie Highlander and have been waiting for a reboot, this is probably as close as you'll get. Um, Highlander is kind of a weird movie just in itself. You don't want to get too much into it now, but I always personally thought Highlander was one of those movies with a great idea and like not as good execution. This book right here is a shaping up first issue, already a better execution of that same general idea of immortal warriors hunting each other. Really, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see where this goes in issues 2, 3, and 4. And I can recommend this like kind of as an issue 1, recommend without picking up issue 2, because it's going to be 4 issues. You're in it now, or you might as well just pick it up and trade. So that is that. Good book to end the week on. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see my review of DC comic books that came out this week, that is in part 1 to this video, already up on my channel. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like. If you really want to, please subscribe. So every week, more of these just kind of appear on your YouTube page thing. Any comments, questions, anything whatsoever like that, feel free to leave them down below. I will try and get to them and respond with something to say. And yeah, that's about it for this week. Thank you for watching, and hope that I will see you again next week for more comic book reviews.